A quiet light flickers in the corner of a room and a single synth note rises like mist on still water. From within that haze stands a figure with a voice as soft as a secret and as sharp as a blade of glass. This is the world of Japan, a world where elegance becomes emotion, and where a single song can feel like a photograph captured in the instant before a dream dissolves. There are moments in music when a group seems to tune itself to a different current, as though listening to a signal the rest of the world has not yet detected. Japan was one of those groups. David Sylvian may have stood at the front, but the band's identity was shaped equally by Mick Karn with his fluid and expressive fretless bass, by Steve Jansen whose quiet precision guided the rhythm, by Richard Barbieri who sculpted sound into atmosphere, and by Rob Dean whose guitar added structure and shifting light. Together they created a sound that shimmered between glamour and introspection, both familiar and entirely their own. As the late 1970s gave way to the early 1980s, New Wave was just beginning to take hold, even though the term itself would only gain broad recognition a little later. At the same time, the new romantic movement was emerging in London clubs and art circles, still more a loose aesthetic than a defined genre. Japan stood at a crossroads before either movement had fully formed. Their music carried the elegance, introspection, and sense of style that new romantic would soon embrace, yet they were already crafting these ideas independently. In many ways, they were not followers but forerunners, shaping a sound and an atmosphere that others would later echo once New Wave and New Romantic found their names. The band's fourth studio album, Gentlemen Take Polaroids, stands as the moment when the band reached a shared creative clarity. Each member's voice is woven into the fabric of the album. Barbieri builds electronic environments that feel both constructed and organic. Jansen shapes the rhythm with quiet discipline. Karn sings through his bass with fluid, expressive phrasing. And Dean's guitar adds flashes of colour and faint traces of shadow. Sylvian's voice rests above all this, guiding the emotional and poetic direction of the record. The title track opens with calm poise. Jansen's gentle rhythm sits beneath melancholic synthesizers, while Karn's bass curves gracefully through the space. Sylvian enters with a voice suspended in air, singing of a fleeting connection preserved in an instant. The lyrics examine the tension between intimacy and performance, suggesting that even our most personal moments can be shaped by the desire to be seen. The reference to Polaroids speaks to the way memories develop slowly but permanently, the way identity is constructed through images, appearances, and the roles we choose to play. Beneath the elegance lies a quiet sadness, a recognition that beauty captured in a moment is beauty already slipping away. Swing follows with restless movement. Jansen creates a rhythm that feels both playful and uncertain, while Barbieri fills the space with synthetic currents. Karn's bass leaps and bends with unpredictable motion, and Dean adds bright flashes of guitar that appear and vanish. The lyrics describe a world of emotional imbalance, where desire is mixed with self-doubt. There is a feeling of people circling one another, never fully connecting, never quite saying what they mean. The word swing becomes more than a rhythm. It becomes a description of emotional instability, of relationships that drift back and forth between confidence and vulnerability. Burning Bridges stretches out like a distant landscape, shaped by drifting tones and shifting textures. For most of its duration, it feels like an instrumental journey. Yet at the end, Sylvian delivers a brief passage of lyrics that alters the emotional shape of the piece. These final lines speak of letting go, of stepping away from a situation that can no longer be sustained, and of accepting the quiet sadness that comes with that choice. The song becomes a meditation on departure, not in anger, but in inevitability. Its title suggests a point of no return, and the faint, almost whispered lyrics reinforce that feeling. It is the sound of leaving something behind with grace rather than drama, acknowledging change without announcing it aloud. My new career enters with a quieter breath. The music softens and turns inward, and Sylvian delivers one of his most introspective performances. The lyrics describe a moment of transition, a decision to abandon an old version of the self in favor of something unknown. There is melancholy in the admission of loss, yet a strange sense of freedom in the willingness to begin again. The career is not necessarily literal. It represents any path we follow for too long, any identity that becomes too tight to inhabit. The song captures the uneasy courage required to step away from a familiar history, knowing it can no longer sustain the person we have become. Methods of Dance shifts the tone once more. Jansen constructs an intricate rhythm, Karn glides around it with fluid grace, and Barbieri paints the air with shifting tones. Sylvian's lyrics examine the ways people attempt to recreate themselves through ritual. The dance becomes a metaphor for transformation. It is an escape from expectation and a means of shaking off emotional confinement. The words describe a narrator who is trying to rescue himself from inner stagnation by surrendering to movement. Near the end, a second voice joins Sylvian, suggesting a merging of identities or the presence of another self waiting to emerge. Ain't That Peculiar moves with a rhythm that feels grounded and ancient. Karn's bass spirals above the beat with urgency, while the arrangement surrounds a familiar lyric with a new emotional atmosphere. The words explore the contradictions of affection that persists even when it causes pain. There is an almost philosophical exploration of the human tendency to cling to relationships that wound us, as though discomfort itself becomes part of the emotional pattern. Japan transformed the song into something colder and more reflective, giving its emotional contradictions a sharper, more introspective light. Before the album reaches its final point, it pauses for a moment of remarkable intimacy. Nightporter emerges as one of the most haunting ballads of its era. Jansen provides a soft heartbeat, Barbieri shapes a space of gentle shadows, and Karn adds warm, understated depth. Sylvian's lyrics depict a secret love sustained in quiet, hidden spaces. The Nightporter becomes the keeper of the boundary between desire and exposure, between what must remain in darkness and what would dissolve under the weight of daylight. The song explores the beauty and the sorrow of a relationship lived in secrecy, where passion and danger exist in equal measure. The album's final revelation arrives with Taking Islands in Africa. It does not merely conclude the record, it completes it. The song appears like a lantern held steady in fading light, offering a final moment of clarity before the journey ends. Conceived by Sylvian and Sakamoto, the track carries the full spirit of world music, delicate yet expansive. The lyrics trace a desire for escape, for imagining places untouched by expectation or memory. Africa becomes less a geographical space and more a symbol of distance, of a dream of elsewhere, of a life lived beyond the boundaries of one's own history. Sylvian's voice guides this vision, but the atmosphere beneath him belongs to the entire band. Barbieri creates drifting textures that feel like weather on a far horizon. Jansen keeps the pulse calm and steady. Karn offers melodic warmth, and Dean leaves faint impressions of guitar that feel like footprints dissolving into sand. Together they bring the record to a close with a quiet and lasting beauty. Gentlemen Take Polaroids remains a testament to the emotional depth and artistic ambition that ran through Japan's work. Beneath the synthesizers and the shifting fashions of the era lies a record shaped by uncommon sensitivity. It is an album that explores the fragile border between appearance and truth, between the images we keep and the selves we try to become. It is the sound of 5 musicians capturing a fleeting moment in their evolution, a moment preserved like a single image held carefully in the palm of the hand.